Do we make a complicated life too simple, or is it the other way around? Is life too simple and we make it complicated? Well, I'm going to get to that in just a few moments. Before I do, I'm running a little late this week. Kathy and I took a trip to Colorado to see our daughter, son-in-law, and two of our grandsons. I got a cute little story about that. I also told that story on the Israel update a few minutes ago with Hanok, but I've got a different twist on it in this program. I have not been traveling a lot, especially on airplanes lately, just because I have this, I have a allergic reaction that in airports and planes and places like this. I'm allergic to stupidity. And it is rampant out there. But we took a flight from Atlanta. We actually drove down to Atlanta after Shabbat, flew out early Sunday morning, flew into Denver and spent some time up in the Fort Collins area, north of Denver, and then back, okay? And I have to tell you that it was an eye-opening experience. I mean, I don't feel like I'm really out of touch with what's happening in the world today, but to be that close into some things that were shown to us was interesting. And I guess coming off of the Torah portions of Sodom and Gomorrah, yeah. And then to be kind of pushed into, and I know many of you have much more interaction in maybe you're in your jobs or various places like that. But I want to make a statement that maybe will ruffle some feathers along the way. But with Abraham and Sodom and Gomorrah, as he was interceding for Lot and for Lot's family, and actually for the cities of the plains, there came a time in which the negotiations were over. Judgment was coming. There was no amount of prayer that Abraham could have prayed. There was no intercession that he could have brought forth that was going to make a difference in Sodom and Gomorrah and the judgment that was there. Now, I personally believe that we should seek to influence every person that we can. We should seek to be people of influence in every area of life. And so what I'm going to say is not regarding, speaking to your neighbor, influencing those that are at your workplace, speaking to those that you come in contact with. But I believe that as a society, that the United States has come to a place of not being able to be redeemed. As I said, that may go totally against you. That does not mean that we do not try to influence people. But as a society, I said to Kathy on the way home last night from Atlanta, I do not believe that the United States can be redeemed. I personally believe we are at the place that Abraham had to look into the eyes of Hashem and say, I guess that the negotiations are over here. Judgment is coming. What do I base that on? I base it on the fact that in my observations of not just this 1 week and a few days that we were gone, but my observations of what is happening in the world, specifically in this country that I was privileged to be born in. I'm not anti-American by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, in some ways, I have much more respect for this nation than probably people understand. But as a nation, I believe that this nation has crossed the line. There was a time in Egypt we're going to be reading about in a few Torah portions to come that that there was choices that had been made. As I observe people today, and this is what I'm basing this on, as I observe people today, there is a verse that I'm going to look for later on. I did not have time to look for it this morning, but it says, the verse loosely translated is that their thoughts were continually evil. Basically, there is no thought in the vast majority of humanity today. There is no thought of how will my actions, what are my actions, what's the consequences of my actions? Is there a being, an intelligent force? Is there a creator? Is there anyone outside of me that I need to even have a thought of today? Or is life all about me? And this brings me to my opening statement. Is life very complicated, and we as a society try to make it too simple? Or is life very simple, and we as a society, as a group of people, try to make it, is it so simple and we try to make it complicated, or vice versa? I think there's a thought here in the statement, the beginning of this parashah, which is titled, interesting enough, The Life of Sarah. But it begins with Sarah lived, the life of Sarah. Sarah lived to be 127 years old. These are the years of Sarah's life, and Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, also known as Hebron. I'll get to Hebron in just a few moments. So the discussion has been for centuries, I guess. Why is this Torah portion called the life of Sarah, but yet it begins with the death of Sarah? Well, is the principle of complicating the simple and simplifying the complicated? Is this actually something that's here? Could it be as simple as this, that Sarah's purpose had come to an end? And when her purpose came to an end, then it was time for her to die. There's been speculation of, that she found out what was going on, that Abraham had taken Isaac to the mountain, was going to sacrifice him, and through this she was so distraught that she grieved herself to death. And again, is it the simple, just simple, but yet trying to find answers? Sometimes there's no answers in life. It's just a simple matter of the person's purpose in life had come to an end. Can we accept that? Can we accept that? Because if that is true, that when our purpose in life comes to an end, and this is actually goes to a rabbinical teaching, some of which I don't really agree with, taken to an extreme. But is life as simple as that when your purpose has been completed, then your life has been completed? And the reason that some people live longer is the Father's trying to get their purpose out of them. And they're too busy looking in their own mirror and thinking that life is about them. Because your purpose in life, this is very philosophical, I've got a little jet lag, but your purpose in life is something that each of us has, yes, but most people never find it. And most people will die having never truly found and given their purpose in life. Thinking that life is about you will never find, is never a road that will find your purpose. So Sarah's life, her purpose in life was giving birth. And once she gave birth, then her life purpose had come to an end. Now, Abraham had more purpose for himself. And let me move on from there before I belabor the point to where I lose everybody here. But this Sarah's life may have brought, there's some time period that is transpiring here between Isaac being offered or taken to Mount Moriah and being offered and this point. It seems that there's some things that were going on. Abraham did not go directly from Mount Moriah directly back to Hebron. There's a time period that's happening. Why is that? Total speculation on that part. I have my own speculation, but I'm going to choose not to go there in this teaching. But the news that came to Abraham of Sarah's death, did it cause him to refocus? Was the taking of Isaac to Mount Moriah, did it cause him to lose focus on a very simple fact that this is the son of promise? This is the son of the covenant. This is the son in which all that has been promised is going to come to pass. But there's a very interesting little thing that needs to happen here, is that in order for the promise to continue on, Isaac needs to have a son of his own. In order to have that son of his own, he needs to have a wife. So is it possible that the death of Sarah brought Abraham back to a place of focusing on what the job he needed to do? In order to get there, he first needs to bury his wife. And so he goes to Hebron and begins this negotiation. In verse 4, it's an interesting verse that says, he goes to the people of the land, the Hittite, and he says, I am a foreigner living as an alien with you. Let me have a burial site with you so that I can bury my dead wife. Now, why is it that it is this place that is important to Abraham? The teaching has been, and I agree with this, that does not make me right. It may mean that I agree with people that are wrong, but I tend to agree with this, that Hebron is known as the place of the entrance to the Garden of Eden. Now, I know that after the flood that all kinds of things, the topography and things have changed, but could it be that that Shem was able to locate that area that had been the Garden of Eden? The Garden of Eden, in fact, I mean, you look at Hollywood and movies and all kinds of things, and they tend to have a basis, even like science fiction. If you look at it, it has to have some kind of reality. So, Journey to the Center of the Earth and all of these different things. Could these things be based upon a reality? That there is still a Garden of Eden, and that there is an entrance to, and will one day in the millennium or beyond be revealed again. Those are all things that we can think about. None of us can prove it right or wrong. But he goes to this place, and he wants to buy this cave. In order to do that, he ends up buying the whole field. Is this cave the entrance to the Garden of Eden and the place that Adam and Eve are buried? This is why it makes perfectly good sense to me that Abraham is burying his wife and will be buried himself in the place on this earth closest to where the covenant was lying. As use a little bit of a pun there with, if that is where Adam and Eve are truly buried. Okay, so he goes to Ephron, to the Hittite, and he says, I'm living as an alien among you. But the truth is that they're the aliens. Okay, they're the ones that are occupying the land. Yes, they had been occupying the land prior to Abram at the time arriving in the land, but he has legal deed to the land which was given to him when he left Ur of the Chaldees, when he left Haran. So he has legal right to the land. When he enters in, it's like someone renting a house and then the owner showing up and saying, I'm going to take possession of this house again. Very simplified in that. He could have pulled the deed card and said, I'm taking this cave and I'm displacing you from this area. And they could have said, we acknowledge your rightful ownership of this land, and we're going to, this is yours. Do you mind if we hang out in the area? And Abraham could have said, sure, that's no problem. Okay, they could have lived as the foreigners, but instead they were treating Abraham as the foreigners. I think that's kind of playing out today in the land of Israel once again. With this, Abraham ends up paying an exorbitant amount of money for this land, for this place. He pays far more than what it is worth in the natural. But let me bring in a statement here that the things of the fathers are there to teach the children. So when we see that Abraham is committed to the ownership of this land, even at an amount that seems to be outrageous, he still goes forth with it. The same as David will say, as he was told, I'll give you this. He said, no, I will offer nothing that doesn't cost me something. Taking possession of that which he is giving to us is going to cost us. It's going to cost us in numerous ways. So we end up seeing that Abraham is not being treated correctly in his own land. This will hold true in all three areas. We see that there is in the Torah, the Tanakh, there are three different title deeds that are given. One is to the cave of Machpelah and to the field. Second one is to the land of Shechem, modern day Nablus, where Joseph is buried. Number three is the Har Habayit, the Temple Mount. So those three areas, there's recorded title deeds in the scripture to those, and those are the three most hotly, we could argue, the three most hotly contested areas in Israel today. All right, so let's move on with this. We see that Abraham is able to bury Sarah there, and then his attention turns to, there's something that we need to take care of here, and that is that my son Isaac needs a bride. Now, why doesn't he go back? Okay, why doesn't he go back to Haran and look at Laban in the eyes? And there's a lot of different things that we could go to here. He's in the land. He's left it one time for a famine, and that might not have gone real well. And so he's not being told to leave the land and go back. He's told to dwell in the land. So he sends, the verse says that he sent his servant who had served him the longest. Now it is widely taught that this is Eleazar. Okay, we've seen Eleazar in previous chapters and verses. It doesn't say that it is Eleazar, but it is assumed that it is Eleazar. Let's go for a moment to the man, this servant. Okay, I'm going to assume that it is Eleazar, so I'll call him by name. If it's a different guy, my apologies to him in the end. So let's assume it's Eleazar, and Abraham goes to Eleazar and tells him what he needs to have happen, and he makes him swear an oath to Abraham that he will carry out these instructions exactly. Eleazar gives him his word on this oath, and off he goes. But let's dwell for a moment on the man. Ask you a question. Do you have a person in your life that you can trust like Eleazar? Are you a person that others can trust? Eleazar was a man of commitment. He was a man that when he said he was going to do something, he was going to do it. He was the epitome of what Yeshua would say, let your yes be yes and your no be no. What I see and this unfortunately is in religious circles, denominational, even in messianic circles, commitment. Just how committed are we? Just how much does our word mean to us? Can someone, we used to say, take it to the bank? When your word was spoken, there's idioms that were used as a man's word is his bond. When I was growing up, let's shake on it. You would make a commitment to someone, let's shake on it. The shaking of hands was not really, it was just a formality, it's something, an outward expression of something that had already been committed to. Just how much can a person trust us? I had an interesting experience. As I said, I told it on the Israel update, so if you heard the Israel update already, my apologies, but when we were in Colorado, we were there the first night, and we have a grandson who's about 2 years old. I'm not good at when their birthdays are, so he's in the 2 area. So the last time I saw him, he was just a little tiny guy, just barely figuring out how to walk. Well, now he's talking, he's pretty intelligent, and yeah, I won't even say it, right? You know what I would say. I would say, because you'd say the same thing of your grandchildren or your children. But pretty intelligent little guy. And so Kathy and I were there, we were playing, and it was just a wonderful bonding experience, really our first bonding experience between Gordon and Grandpa Sir. And so we got ready to leave, and I said, well, we've got to leave. And all of a sudden, his little smile just became, his whole face kind of fell down, his countenance. He was like, what? You got to leave? I said, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow. We got to go to the hotel. And I said, I'll bring you a surprise. Well, his next words were, what is it? He wanted to know right then what the surprise was going to be. And for some reason, just those that know me, well, you can imagine how I would do this. And I said, a baby elephant. He goes, you're getting me a baby elephant? And I said, yeah. Oh boy. So he goes directly to his mom, looks up at his mom, and said, Grandpa, sir, is getting us a baby elephant. She looks at him and then looks at me like, what have you done? And I'm like, uh-oh. Well, here's the place that he goes to school, to daycare. We go out shopping with our other grandson the next day. We end up going to a thrift store. And the first thing that happens is our daughter walks over to the toy section, and right there in the front, in the stuffed animal section, is a baby elephant, thankfully. And so $3, $2.99 plus tax later, I'm walking out of the thrift store with a baby elephant. And so that afternoon, Crystal goes and gets him. He comes walking in the door. Doesn't come over and hug anybody. He comes walking in the door, stops about 10 feet from me, looks directly at me and says, where's my baby elephant? And so I had it. It was in my backpack, and I pulled it out, and he's like, yeah. What's the moral of the story? Is that no matter what I had to do that day, we were, I believe, divinely blessed in that the first thrift store we walked in had not only a baby elephant, but the baby elephant that we needed. We saw a couple later in the day, and they were all, they'd been used. They were really used baby elephants. But that day, if I had not found one there, Grandpa Sir was going to move the Rocky Mountains, if needed, to find a baby elephant. Because this is really one of the first memories that this grandson has about his grandfather. And I want that memory to be that his grandfather is a man of commitment. That when I tell him something, that he can take it to the bank. When I tell him something, that he can do that. And see, that's the kind of person that I desire to be with every person that I meet. That when I tell someone something, or you email me, and we have a conversation, and I make a commitment to something, I do not want there to be a doubt in your mind whether Mike Clayton is going to fulfill that commitment or not. We have a congregation here that meets every Shabbat. I don't want that congregation anyone in that congregation to ever wonder, well, I wonder if, when we show up at 2 o'clock today, I wonder if Mike's going to be there. I wonder if the doors will be open. I wonder if, I don't want that to ever be a thought in their mind, because I want to be known as a person of commitment. So Eleazar, this servant of Abraham, I think he doesn't get as much of a notoriety as he should, because of the man that he was. And because he is a man of commitment, the Almighty steps in to help him in that commitment, because we see in the next verses, this will be a divine encounter. Eleazar says this prayer of, would you give me favor and find the person quickly, and all of a sudden, exactly as Eleazar had asked, here comes this girl. Here comes Rivka with her entourage. And it's exactly as he prayed, because his commitment, because this man, I want you to get this today, because this man was a man of his word, it put in action the divine response that brought forth the encounter so that he could return then to Abraham, having fulfilled totally and completely what Abraham had asked him to do. See, it was not of, I mean, you have to understand that I try my best to be conscious. I call it God consciousness. I try to be conscious of His presence in my life at all times. Do I get that all exactly? No. I try to be conscious of His life, of His presence in my life at all times. And so when we walked in the door, Kathy went one way to the book section or something. I headed back to the sporting goods, I think, and Crystal walked directly to the toys. Within 2 minutes of us walking in the door, I glanced over, saw her in the toy section, and she held up a baby elephant. I have to tell you that I was not at all surprised to see the baby elephant in her hands, because my desire to be a grandpa sir of commitment to a 2-year-old brought forth divine intervention to find a baby elephant. Now, if I stood up in most audiences and told that story, there would be many people that would be rolling their eyes and thinking, this guy has lost his mind. Those of you that have been around and know me long enough, have been around my teachings long enough, understand that I truly believe that. And I truly believe that that is the way that the Father desires to operate in your life also. That when we make a commitment, we live, as I go back to Sodom and Gomorrah, Sodom and Gomorrah was not known as a society of commitment. Well, maybe they're committed to the wrong thing, okay? But I don't see them as a society of commitment. It's kind of like, let's take it to Shabbat, okay? Let's take it to Shabbat. Well, we're going to observe Shabbat this week, unless something else comes up. We're going to be a part of Shabbat service, well, unless something else happens. Folks, are we putting the things of God? If we took a priority list, if we actually took a piece of paper and put the priorities, just how far up, and I'm not talking about what our our desire or what our words are, okay? What our words are, but our actions. You can have two lists. You can have a list over here of what your words are, and then a list over here of what your actions prove. Words are cheap. Yes, words have meaning. Thank you, Brad Scott and Rush Limbaugh. Words mean things. But words without actions are cheap. And actions will prove out the commitment to your words or lack of. Let's be people like Eleazar. I think we need to give this guy much more credit. Now, we're going to be introduced to a man who will come into play more in the Torah portions to come. His name is Lavan. Lavan, his name means white. And Lavan is going to be Isaac's Lot. Remember Lot? You know, Lot's name means veil. And it wasn't until Lot left that the veil that was holding Abraham back from, or was holding Abram back from being Abraham, that veil was there until Lot was taken out of his life. Well, Lavan is very similar to Lot in that Isaac will not be able to truly enter into the promise until he sees Lavan for who he is. Lavan, again, his name means white, and so he he can be considered a false holiness. You ever been around somebody like that? That at first you had your eyes are kind of looking like owls, and you're just overcome with this person and their holiness and dedication, and then somewhere along the way you start to truly get your eyes open to who this person is. We'll get to that as we go into further Torah portions. We get a glimpse into Lavan's life that Eleazar probably does not see. Abraham is not there. Isaac is not there. So they don't get this glimpse. We get the glimpse. There's times that we're given in Scripture, it's like, no, don't do that. If you could go back and live out there, no, you kind of whisper in their ear, Isaac, when you go and live with Lavan, just be careful, because he's not who he says he is. You ever done that? Yeah, how does that usually work out? Okay, you go to someone, you know something about this person, and like you're like, the person's not really who they say they are, and you're like, what are you talking about? You don't know what's going on, and then you find out later on that this person's not who they say they are. Yeah, that's how it is, and so we get this glimpse into Lavan's life through chapter 24, verse 29, 30, depending on your translation. Rivkah had a brother named Lavan. When he saw the nose ring and the bracelets on the sister's wrist beside, when he heard his sister Rivkah's report of what the man had said to her, he ran out to the spring, found the man standing there by. Well, let me translate it into how it would have been in Lavan's life. I'll change one word. And found the man standing by the stuff, by the gifts, by the things that Lavan is going to have for himself. And we see now that Lavan is not as pure as his name, but Lavan is a person that is out for himself. And that's what we will see as we continue to go through. Now, let's consider this, that this whole scenario of Abraham, of Sarah, of Isaac, of Eleazar, we can see the Father working. The Eleazar represents the Spirit, the Ruach that is sent into the world to receive a bride for the Messiah. The picture of it is so clear, at least to me. And so the Spirit brings forth gifts. Eleazar brings forth camels, with gifts. But Laban gets his eye on the gifts and not the giver. And my, how that has been done in some Pentecostal denominations, in some charismatic, in some name it and claim it and frame it, blab it and grab it. Instead of the gifts being about the one who is the giver of the gift, it becomes about the gift. It's like with our grandson. What do you do? Because he's a 2-year-old, he's immature, okay? I give him the baby elephant, and what does he do? He runs, turns around, big smile on his face, runs over to his mommy and says, "Got my baby elephant." And what does mommy do? Did you say thank you? Did you give Grandpa Sir a hug? He stopped. Oh, yeah. Because, see, he's immature. He's a 2-year-old. He's supposed to be immature. But what happens when we grow up and the Creator, through the working of the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, gives gifts unto us, and we just go off, running off and sharing the gift with other people and make the gift about ourselves and never turn around to say thank you. Oh, yeah, I know that hurts a little bit, doesn't it? So we need to focus, see that the gifts of the Father, and I mean, we could teach on this forever, for ages, it has been. There are gifts that the Father wants to give you. There is a problem today, and that is because, and I've used this terminology, there's a lack of trust. People don't trust the Father because of the way that they've been treated through individuals, through parents, pastors, teachers. Trust is not something that is just rampant today. In fact, mistrust is. And so when the Father comes and desires to give us his gifts, the tendency sometimes is to look at him through the lens of the mistrust of others. It is his good pleasure to give us good gifts. Go back and read verses like in Luke chapter 11 of, if we ask for an egg, is he going to give us a serpent? It is his pleasure to give good gifts. That song is more than just a song to me. I think it's Chris Tomlin. Can't remember exactly, but Good Father. I remember the first time that I heard that song. Oh, I had heard the song. I had verbally connected with the audible vibrations. I had acknowledged the song, but I remember the first time that I heard the song. I was in Tallahassee visiting one of my cousins, and I heard the song, Good Father. That's who you are. Listen to that song sometime. Go on to, you can go on YouTube or wherever and pull that song up. Listen to it. And at the end of the song, ask yourself, do I truly believe that? Or am I holding back some things of my life because I'm looking at him through the filter of what others have done to me? We need to remove that filter, ladies and gentlemen. We need to remove that filter and look at him for who he is. Moving on. we see the whole negotiation with Lavan, with Rivka. She says, no, I'm leaving now. And off they go on this journey. The picture of this, of Isaac in the field. Why is he in the field? Is he harvesting? Is he plowing? Or is he longing? Is it getting close? Has he kind of thought about it and plotted out? Okay, it's going to take Eleazar this long to get there, and let's say that he has divine favor, and then it's going to take him about this long to get back. And so he begins, when it's about that time, he starts going out in the field and looking in the distance and longing. And all of a sudden he sees someone. She sees him. It says she dismounted from her camel. She puts her veil on. She dismounts from her camel and runs to the one who's going to be her husband. In the book of 1 Thessalonians, chapter 4, verse 10. For Adonai himself will come down from heaven with a rousing cry, with a call from one of the ruling angels, and with Elohim's shofar. Those who died united with Messiah will be the first to rise. Then we who are left still alive will be caught up with them in the clouds to meet Adonai in the air, and thus we will always be with him. So encourage each other with these words. The words are very simple, that there is coming a time in which we will see him in the field. How much longing as Rivka is making that journey back. I mean, it just sucked dirt, literally. You're riding on camels, you're getting some dirt in your yeah, literally. It wasn't comfortable. It was quite a challenge, I would imagine. But the closer she got, the more longing there was. But could her longing even come close to the longing that he had for her? Could we imagine today, as we see the world falling apart and all these things that are happening around us, can we just for a moment try to put ourselves not in our shoes, but in his shoes? How much longing do you have for his kingdom to come? Scale of 1 to 10. How much longing do you have for his kingdom to come? I know people that don't even make the scale. I know some that have, it's pretty high up there also. But no matter what our scale is, his scale, it is 10 plus. It's off the charts. I believe that today the longing for Messiah to return is something that cannot even be measured. May our longing at least try to reach up toward his. Shabbat Shalom. Shavua Tov. Have a blessed, prosperous week. Bezrat Hashem, God willing. See you again next week. Until then, you know what I normally say. And why do I do that? Why do I say that every week? There's things I say every week because I want you to have a good Shabbat. I want you to have a good week. And I truly believe it is only by the grace of the Almighty that I'm here, you're here every week. And I truly want you to be strong as we walk out these days.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.